Hi folks, so a couple of days ago I did a video on the personal planets, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and the new moon created by the Sun and the moon getting together in and through the sign of Scorpio. We've got Mercury and the Sun in Scorpio, and we're heading towards a new moon in Scorpio on November the 1st. And Venus is now in Sagittarius. And I want to do the same kind of content for the personal planets going over Sagittarius. And you might think this is a weird way. There's so many ways to look at astrological data. If you know your chart and you know the house occupied by the sign of Scorpio, that last video will be useful for you. If you know your chart and you know the house occupied by, not the sign occupied by, the house occupied by the sign of Sagittarius, what that house stands for, then this video will be useful for you. Sometimes it's important to look at what is going on within a particular house, especially because right now, given where all the planets are, the slower moving planets and the faster moving personal planets, we're in the middle of a series of trines and squares that the faster moving planets are making with the smaller moving planets as the faster moving planets head towards their conjunctions with the slower planets, as we head towards the end of the year. So what is important and significant is that we are in a period of change. The change will accelerate as we head into November. And I think it's important to get a sense of not only what is going on with the slower moving planets, but also how the conversations that Venus and Mercury and the Sun and the new moon are having in the house occupied by Scorpio, in the house occupied by Sagittarius, what role these transits are playing within the longer arcs that are set up for us astrologically, particularly because we're headed to a Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, and that Mercury retrograde will square Saturn, oppose Jupiter, and trine Chiron 3 times. And, that's a perfect example of a personal planet touching, the primary arcs that are going on in our lives being created by the slower moving planets right now. And so it becomes very difficult to talk about weekly overviews and what's coming up without you having access to how to look at matters related to these two houses right now in your chart, the house occupied by Scorpio and Sagittarius. The Scorpio house reading, as I said, is already done. After this video, over the course of the next week, I will be doing a weekly overview tomorrow. We will be talking about Mars opposing Pluto after that, and then I will be doing the new moon in Scorpio video next. So, and all these videos are going to build on the Scorpio transit video and the Sagittarius. There's a method to this madness, basically, is how I would put it. When we talked about the Scorpio house video, house occupied by Scorpio in your chart, and the fact that Venus has already gone through it and is now in Sagittarius, but Mercury and the Sun are in Scorpio, and we're going to have the new moon in Scorpio in a few days' time. I had mentioned to you what happens when Venus and Mercury are moving ahead of the Sun, and when Venus is the first planet to enter a house, after which Mercury enters and the Sun enters, or the Sun enters and Mercury enters. Wherever Venus goes, there are, just as a recap, there are 2 things that she does. The first thing she does is to survey matters related to the house that she's transiting, and she asks, what do you value? What are your goals in that part of the chart? And are your resources and your relationships in alignment? Are they working towards what you value in that part of the chart? Number 2, what Venus does is she creates opportunities. She brings opportunities, creative opportunities, artistic opportunities, Venusian opportunities, beautification, luxuries, most importantly, financial and relationship opportunities, job opportunities. She plants the seeds that then Mercury and the Sun and the new moon can then come in and harvest. And wherever the Sun and Mercury are following, there is this kind of harvesting feeling because a new moon is going to occur A new moon occurs in Scorpio on November the 1st. A new moon occurs in Sagittarius on November the 30th, setting up a 28-day period of activity related to that chart. When this year, because Venus is moving ahead of the sun and the new moon, actions can be taken to develop, to cultivate, to act on whatever it is that Venus is trying to bring to us, both with regard to us questioning and waking up to how the situations that we might be currently experiencing or holding on to, or habits or patterns, or what we have in the part of the chart she's transiting may or may not be in alignment with what we need and where we need to go, and how, as I said, our resources, our relationships may or may not be serving what we value in that part of the chart, and what opportunities she can bring and open up to get us to think about, okay, then what changes do I make? Where do I go? And actually bringing something to us that we can then cultivate. Mercury does two things. He moves this Venusian review and opportunity into a thinking space. He helps us articulate to us what is and is not working and what changes may be needed. And the second thing he does is he also moves things into the realm of communication. We may find that we are talking to people, our network, our friends, people, hopefully people we like and we trust. Sometimes foolishly not. But that's not really the big point here. The point is, things with Mercury move into a mental, cognitive realm, and they move into a communicative realm. We are looking at things on the internet. We are applying for jobs that Venus may have created. We are looking to make changes. We are telling our friends and our networks, I think this is what I need. I think this is what I need to do. We are transacting on them. We could be looking at contracts related to them. The sun, when he follows, it's an odd thing to have Mercury ahead of the sun, because this cognitive and communicative thing is already in process. And with the sun, it is much more a matter of focus. Bringing, on the heels of Venus and on the heels of things being in a thinking and a communicating space, wherever the sun goes, he shines. Every nook and cranny, as you've heard me say, in that part of the chart is now lit up. And there's a solar, straight from source focus for us on matters related to that part of the chart. Now, it's interesting. Venus has already been through Scorpio, for example, from September 23rd to October 17th. Mercury is still in Scorpio, but will be done in about 6 days' time on November the 2nd. The sun has already come into Scorpio, as he usually does around October 22nd, but he is going to stay till November 21st. And the new moon will occur on November the 1st. And the month of Scorpio will go on until the new moon in Sagittarius on November the 30th. So the focus stage, and then with the new moon, 28 days of activity. Cultivation, if you like, building, acting on, focusing on. The opportunities may become concrete. The changes that need to be made may become concrete. Now, these are annual transits of Mercury, the Sun, Venus, and the new moon. They are not eclipses. They are not Jupiter, Saturn. They are not Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So they are not typically groundbreaking change agents. The changes and the pressures and the opportunities are created by the slower moving planets, and these faster moving personal planets, our connection to source, the sun, our emotional and intuitive and energetic responses to our activities on a day-to-day basis, our resources and our relationships, our desires and our ability to pursue our goals and set boundaries. the moon, Venus, Mars, they represent our energies as we interact with the world. And they are in conversation with these larger changes that are occurring. And the larger changes that are occurring, as you have heard me say lots and lots of times, and I will continue to say till the end of the first week of June of next year, the opportunities and the desire and a direction that we may want to move in or explore, or we're like, what is in this for me, is symbolized by the Aries part of the chart. There are changes also that are individual to us that are symbolized by the Taurus part of the chart, where we had the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on April the 20th, changes of which will roll out for 13 months after that conjunction. And Jupiter going over Gemini, ending a 12-13-year cycle, starting a 12-13-year cycle, for many of us in connection with these changes. That's where the opportunity is, the excitement is, where we might want to go, what we might want to explore, what we may want to expand into. But as you also know, it is the Pisces part of our chart where we may have had a certain amount of nebulousness since 2012 that we're being asked to structure and stabilize, especially since March 23, all the way into January, February of 26. And we have eclipses asking us to lean into this area till February 2027. So forward movement, the arc of transformation, the birth canal that we are trying to get the most out of leaning into the Aries part of the chart till the end of the first week of June next year, and releasing what we need to release in the Libra part of the chart. That's where the North Node, South Node eclipses are that have prominence right now. The Aries, Taurus, and the Gemini part of the chart are expansive, promising opportunities for growth and adventure. And the Pisces part of the chart is seeking to be stabilized, either structuring creative or spiritual goals, or stabilizing any foggy behavior, Neptunian behavior, unstructured, inability to get things in a particular place or order, a lack of boundaries, a renunciatory quality, a kind of loss, sort of a loss of ego, possessiveness, on certain things, gaslighting, lies, deception, people acting in a Neptunian manner, us acting in a Neptunian manner, all with a crisis that 2014-15, but especially 16-17 may have really been manifest, trying to be stabilized. Those are the overall arcs, and there's a timeline that takes us to the end of the first week of June of next year that we are currently moving towards. But within that, there's a back and forth. The back and forth is created by the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, the Mars retrograde in Cancer and Leo. Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, November 26th to December 15th of this year. Mars retrograde, December 4th of this year to February 24th of next year, between Cancer and Leo. And then Venus and Mars retrograde in March and April of next year. As I've been saying, it is going to take us till the middle to the end of April to feel like we have actually wrapped up what we're trying to wrap up to head to where it is that we're trying to go. And by the end of the first week of June, a lot of that is stabilized. At the end of the first week of June, the impact of that Uranus-Jupiter conjunction in Taurus, the impact of the Aries North Node eclipses, and Jupiter in Gemini, that transit gets completed. All those three things get completed. And we move into a new set of more undiluted, a new arc of leaning into gets set up. Interestingly, starting the end of the first week of June of 2025 till February, March of 2026, actually even till all the way to February 2027, it's all eyes on Pisces. It's a much more focus on getting Piscean stability sorted out. But the personal planets, as they go through Scorpio, where they trine Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, oppose Uranus in Taurus, trine Mars in Cancer. The transits through Sagittarius, which is what this video is about, going into Capricorn, conjuncting Pluto in Aquarius, conjuncting Saturn, Neptune in Pisces, conjuncting and the North Node by the time we get there, conjuncting the North Node, conjuncting Chiron in Aries, conjuncting Uranus, conjuncting Jupiter. You know, we go through a set of conjunction. Right now, we're in this place in Scorpio and Sagittarius where there are conversations occurring with these longer term transits. Supports, oppositions, squares. Being blocked in some way. In a creative way, hopefully, requiring action. From the sign of Sagittarius, the personal planets will trine the North Node in Aries, this direction that we're to move in, square Saturn in Pisces, oppose Jupiter in Gemini, trine Chiron in Aries, square Neptune in Pisces. So the personal planets, Venus, Mercury, the Sun, the new moon. Venus, Mercury, and the Sun will trine the North Node in Aries and Chiron in Aries, square Saturn and Neptune in Pisces, and oppose Jupiter in Gemini. Mercury will trine the North Node once and square Neptune once, but he will, because he goes retrograde, square Saturn, oppose Jupiter, and trine Chiron 3 times. And the retrograde transits occur in December, in the first week of December. So, for example, Mercury is going to square Saturn, oppose Jupiter, trine Chiron for the first time November 12th, 18th, 19th. He's going to go retrograde on November 26th. He's going to trine Chiron, oppose Jupiter, square Saturn December 4th, 1st, 4th, and 6th. He's going to go direct on December the 15th, and then he's going to oppose Jupiter, square Saturn, trine Chiron on December 26th, 27th, and 30th. Those are things he's going to do 3 times. And when we look at that Mercury retrograde in a separate video, we're going to talk about what that process is going to be. We're actually going to have to talk about it a little bit in this video as well, since we're looking at all the Sagittarius transits. Let's break down the new moon in Sagittarius on November the 30th is square Saturn. The new moon in Scorpio on November the 1st trines Saturn. The new moon in Sagittarius on November the 30th squares Saturn. So I rest my case with regard to this conversation that the personal planets are having with these longer term transits. And it is going to be the houses occupied by Scorpio and Sagittarius right now that are going to be most engaged as stepping stones, as part of this overall transition and arc that is taking us till the end of the first week of June. We know we're moving in the Aries direction and trying to get something out of it. The personal planets, as they go through Scorpio, are not really in a significant conversation, in my opinion, with Chiron and the North Node in Aries. They're more focused on helping stabilize the Pisces part of the chart by trining Saturn and Neptune and involving Mars in that grand trine energy. Mars is trining Saturn and Neptune from Cancer, and the personal planets from Scorpio. The only thing that from Scorpio they do is they oppose Uranus. So there is this conversation on how does the Scorpio part of your chart need to support this very individual change, this very individual direction unique to you in the Taurus part of your chart that Uranus has been trying to create and open up for you since 2018 and will continue to do so till 2026. And all of this is covered in greater detail in my last video on the Scorpio part of the chart. Within the Sagittarius part of the chart, the conversations start up again with the North Node and Chiron in Aries, the direction we want to head in. The North Node always functions as a kind of yearning, a desire, an articulation to move in a certain direction. But it also tends to always be shinier than the reality of what actually can manifest and occur. And so it always has this slightly weird, we are clear that we're being called upon to move in a certain direction. But the reality of what manifests has a complexity to it. where all is not what we thought it was or felt that was promised to us. It's more real. There are disappointments and challenges associated with that as well. But it's the disappointments and the challenges and the reality checks then that keep propelling us moving forward. The chart keeps moving. The wheel keeps moving. There is no destination. You are not going to find peace and contentment by thinking that you're going to get somewhere at some point, or you're going to get someone. Either you're doing the spiritual work to be content as possible, as peaceful and happy as possible where you are, no matter what is going on around you, or else it's not on the cards. You might experience a certain amount of euphoria based on what it is that you value every now and then when you meet a goal or you have some recognition or whatever it is, but the chart keeps moving. And I'm not saying that there aren't situations and people who are in general probably happier and more content than others. But from an astrological perspective, there is no destination, no peaceful place. That said, wherever the North Node is transiting, there is a message that we need to lean into that direction to grow. We do need to follow that call because there's something out of it that we might get. My only advice is don't be too wedded before it's time to what the final outcome needs to look like. If someone, for some reason, feels like they are being called to, I'm making this up, they're being called to move to Denver. Don't ask me why. I'll let them figure that out. The final solution might be that there's something from there that they're supposed to get, but it may be that the final solution is that they're both continue to be based in San Francisco and maybe have a foothold in Denver somehow. It doesn't have to be. Our minds are more limited about how things will be designed finally and why it is we're being asked to look in a certain direction, what we're being asked to incorporate from it. Until the destination appears with a certain clarity and a finality and makes you content, you don't need to commit to it. You are still getting something by pursuing the adventure and the growth and the calling in a grounded way. Because if you just jump off the cliff and head towards that North Node, you'll experience the magic, but it will do a number on your emotional and financial security. Because the North Node, with its kind of hero's journey, excitement makes us reckless with the time-space reality and the financial reality that we need to stabilize in and keep stable in the 3D that we live in, that Saturn is trying so hard to get us to take responsibly all the time. So Venus just trined the North Node on October 21st. In my last weekly overview, I asked you to think about October 21st, the week 10 days before then. What has happened that may have felt like an opportunity to get you rejuvenated again, to get you thinking about the direction you need to move in? When Venus went over Scorpio, what house in your chart is occupied by Scorpio? She did that September 23rd to October 17th. How did she make you wonder whether where you were at was aligned in the Scorpio part of your chart? What was there? Your expenses, the way you're handling and managing your resources, what you have, what you possess, the relationships you have related to what you have in the Scorpio part of the chart. Is that aligned to where you want to go, or is it a hindrance? Are you working hard to keep up with your expenses, and those expenses are not really useful or contributing to where you want to go, in which case changes need to be made? Or is everything in the Scorpio part of the chart in alignment with what you value? And if it isn't, what Venus might bring opportunities or wake you up to try and move in that direction. In doing so, she's going to try, because they're trines to Saturn and Neptune and Mars and Cancer, both Mars and Venus are going to try and say, here's what needs to happen in order to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. She may suggest, she may create opportunities, thoughts that right now Mercury is putting in a communicative space, in a cognitive space. And the Sun, having entered Scorpio 4 days ago, is now bringing its focus, and the November 1st new moon is going to bring up a month of activity around. And that activity will need to take Uranus and Taurus into consideration as well. From the sign of Sagittarius, as I said, the North Node and Chiron in Aries get trined. What is it that Venus can do or bring to you in the Sagittarius part of the chart? What has she already brought to you? Let's say October 10th, 11th to October 21st, that may have rekindled this something brought to you, relationships, finances, opportunities, creative opportunities in the Sagittarius part of the chart that is connecting you with this North Node adventure in the Aries part of the chart. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What are you being called to do? What are you being called to pursue? What direction have you been trying to move in since March, April, May, June, July, August, September of 2023 that you may have felt blocked to do so? And that blockage may have become clear October 23 to March 24. And now, after October the 2nd, the eclipse in Libra, to December the 2nd, you may be being called upon to release. You may now, based on what you know, be being called to act upon and move in that Aries direction. And Venus, when she went over Leo not that long ago, trined the North Node then, and Venus has trined the North Node now. And Venus is going to trine Chiron as well. So opportunities, questions. What do you have in the Sagittarius part of the chart? Is it aligned to where you want to go? What changes need to be made? Opportunities to help you act from a more healed and completed place from the Aries part of the chart. That is underway. Venus goes over Sagittarius between October 17th and November the 11th. And this is why I'm doing this video, because when we look ahead, when I do the look ahead video tomorrow, Venus squares Saturn on the 28th, Monday. She opposes Jupiter and trines Chiron on November the 3rd, and she squares Neptune on November the 9th. So Venus is going to make her most significant aspects from Sagittarius this coming week. So that way, having done this video, when I do that weekly overview, I can at least say, because a weekly overview, at least some part of the weekly overview, is a list of what is going on and an explanation. I can at least give you something that's going to give you a larger context of what is going on in the Sagittarius part of the chart, hence this video. Let me give you the list of transits. Venus, October 17th to November 11th. Mercury, November the 2nd to January the 8th. November 2nd, 24 to January the 8th, 2025. It is a long transit for Mercury because Mercury is retrograde from November 26th to December 15th. So November 2nd, Mercury comes to Sagittarius, goes retrograde on the 26th, goes direct on December 15th, and is out of Sag on January the 8th. The Sun is in Sag from November 21st to December 21st. New Moon in Sag on November the 30th. And a full moon in Sag on June the 11th of next year that may mark some sort of a culmination. It's not an eclipse related to all this activity. I gave you an example in the Scorpio part of the chart as to how this occurs. Scorpio's in my 4th house. As a reminder, when these new moons and all this happens, I'm often thinking about where do I want to be? Do I want to live here? Do I not want to live? Blah, blah, blah. And as I've mentioned, in the past few years, all of my rental increases, which again are relatively benign and they're expected, occur within a few days of the Scorpio full moon in May. It's just interesting how these things show up. The personal planet transits through any part of the house has a kind of a seed planting energy, a rejuvenation energy. How is this part of the chart doing? What needs to be changed? Venus does help bring opportunities, both by asking us to think, is everything here aligned with where you want to go? And here are some solutions. Mercury does move things along in a communicative space. either by us going, well, do I not, what? The sun does bring focus, annual focus. And then the new moon, 28 days of activity. Is it dramatic and huge and big? Not every year and not usually. It's an annual process, but it happens every year. And it is still significant and important because of the next 12 months from here, there is a line. There's something that 6 months from now with that full moon on June the 11th will have an arc. The month of Sagittarius is going to last from November the 30th to December the 30th. December the 30th, we have the new moon in Capricorn. And Sagittarius season, from my perspective, will go all the way to January the 8th, when Mercury is the last planet to leave. In some ways, the transits through Sagittarius are more expansive and more exciting than the transits through Scorpio, which don't really touch in a significant way the Node in Aries or Chiron in Aries. They are in conversation with Uranus and Taurus by opposing it. So there is this question of, how can I, from where I'm at, support Uranus and Taurus? And that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on April 20th and 13 months of changes following it. But there's a lot of emphasis from the Scorpio part of the chart around, is everything, the question in the Scorpio part of the chart is very much around, is everything in the Scorpio part of the chart aligned with where I want to go? And how can I also, whatever's in the Scorpio part of the chart, make changes in the Scorpio part of the chart so it can help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart? In the Sagittarius part of the chart, the trines to the North Node and Chiron in Aries automatically bring in forward direction, adventure. Where are we going? What is coming up in the Sagittarius part of the chart that can help us move forward in a desired direction? Put us in touch with our vitality. Put us in touch with our desires. Put us in touch with where we can lean into to grow. The new moon, but they also run into squares with Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. And this can have one of two possible interpretations or mix thereof. Number one, an awareness that whatever is coming up, whatever seeds are being planted, whatever, for example, Venus is bringing in, that Mercury will put in a communicative space between November 2nd and January the 8th. And Mercury is going to, there's forward movement all the way till about November 21st, 22nd, and then Mercury goes retrograde on November 26th. And between November 26th and December 15th is when we get our reality check in the Sagittarius part of the chart. And on December the 5th, a communication cycle in the Sagittarius part of the chart starts up. Until December the 5th, we're still under a communication cycle from the Leo part of the chart. When Mercury goes retrograde, if you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, you will be more decisive, and the decisions you make, you will then roll out and act on and push through for the 3 months following that till the next Mercury retrograde. If you have Mercury direct in your birth chart, the Mercury retrograde will tell you if your plans need to be revised, because there may be an element of fantasy that creeps into your forward movement and motion. Oh, I can do this in 2 months, and Mercury retrograde will be like, no, it's going to take you 4. And you'll need more money here or there. Oh, I think I'm going to get this job, and Mercury retrograde might be, I don't think so, because this is the problem here. So you've invested, get what you need out of this. But, you know, as I say with Mercury retrograde, what Mercury retrograde does is say, he demonstrates to us where we have our eggs and whether our eggs should be in a certain blank basket or not. What is built on pillars of sand? Mercury retrograde will land our butt on the ground and say, you need to go back to the drawing board with these plans. So from now, with Venus in Sagittarius and Mercury coming on November 2nd, all the way till the Sun enters November the 21st, 22nd, is still forward movement time. We're moving ahead. Venus trines the North Node October 21st. She squares Saturn on the 28th, opposes Jupiter on November 3rd, trines Chiron on November 3rd, squares Neptune on November the 9th. The squares to Saturn and Neptune make us aware of what I have been saying all along. We want to move forward and need to plan to move forward for our own growth and vitality and revitalization, how to experience growth as opposed to stagnation by taking action now to release what we need in the Libra part of the chart and move towards the Aries part of the chart. And support the growth and changes, the individual direction that Uranus going through Taurus has been trying to create for us in the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on April the 20th created for us. To get with the program of what Jupiter's ending the 12, 13-year cycle, he's ending in the Gemini part of the chart and starting in the Gemini part of the chart. But attention continues and has to be paid to stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart, because if it is not, matters in that part of the chart that are nebulous or problematic could spill over in such a way that they can hamper our ability to move forward and cultivate and take advantage of the opportunities being created in the Sagittarius part of the chart. Squares to Saturn and Neptune can be one of two things or a combination thereof. Saturn and Neptune block the personal planets in Sagittarius. It's like at a stop sign. You can't move forward. You're going to have to move forward first, faster moving planet, but you're going to have to be aware that if you are not honoring Saturn trying to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, as I said, the new moon in Sagittarius is a new moon in Sagittarius on November 30th that squares Saturn. Grow, cultivate, have your Sagittarius month November 30th to December 30th, but make sure that Saturn is being honored and you are stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. And you know what the dependency is. Because the other thing that happens with a square is the personal planet, Venus, October 28th, Mercury, November 12th, December 6th, December 27th, the Sun on December 4th, have to take some action in the Sagittarius part of the chart to help support or honor Saturn trying to stabilize Pisces. But it'll be felt like a block. Not as strong a block necessarily as an opposition, but there's a dependency set up. Let's say in the Sagittarius part of a chart, a job opportunity comes up, a creative opportunity comes up, a relationship opportunity comes up. There might be an awareness as you head to Monday, this past week. Let's say Venus conjunct trine the North Node on October the 21st. Expansive state of mind. October 21st to October 28th, as Venus is getting ready to square Saturn on Monday, an awareness of that needs to be stabilized for this to come to fruition. The Pisces part of the chart needs to be stabilized. I need to help Saturn stabilize the Pisces part of the chart so that whatever Venus is trying to create, whatever I am trying to create in the Sagittarius part of the chart can actually grow. The opposition to Jupiter. What is Venus bringing that needs to serve and support Jupiter ending a 12, 13-year cycle, starting a 12, 13-year cycle in the Gemini part of the chart? And Mercury will follow suit. Mercury will trine the North Node on November the 5th. So whatever Venus is bringing in, whatever that conversation is, how are things going in the Sagittarius part of the chart? Are they aligned with the values? Where's the opportunity? Where's the growth? Where's the expansiveness? We are very soon going to be in a space. Mercury transits into Sagittarius this week, coming week. This is why I'm having to do this video today before the weekly overview tomorrow. Soon the opportunity part of these transits is going to go into a mercurial space. Thinking about them, articulating about them, speaking about them, receiving messages, seeing a job posting, writing to someone, receiving an email from someone. The trine to North Node happens only once when Mercury is retrograde. He's not going to trine the North Node 3 times. But then after the trine to North Node, he's going to square Saturn 3 times, oppose Jupiter 3 times, and yes, trine Chiron and Aries 3 times. Supporting the arcs that we have talked about. Move towards the Aries part of the chart, move towards and support the Taurus part of the chart, stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. And then finally, as he heads into January 8th, he will square Neptune. The Sun, of course, will trine the North Node on November the 24th. square Saturn on December 4th, oppose Jupiter December 7th, trine Chiron December 10th, square Neptune December 18th. The sun is never retrograde. He's going to do all that once. And we have a new moon on November the 30th that squares Saturn. Another expansive thing is that around the time of the new moon, encoded into the new moon, Venus will have moved into Capricorn, and she will trine Uranus in Taurus from Capricorn. There's something fundamentally more expansive and exciting about the personal planets making their way through Sagittarius and what they are bringing. But they're also bringing a very strong awareness of how important it is to keep an eye on the Pisces part of the chart and support it and stabilize it. So that this growth that is being brought up in the Sagittarius part of the chart, and it's not without its rockiness. It does have that Mercury retrograde. Look, guys, everything that is going on now is more dynamic. As we head into November, December, January, February, March, till the middle of April, it's what I'm calling sort of the labor pains kind of part of things. The Mars-Pluto opposition is on November the 3rd. We are now, as we head into November, even now, I would be shocked to find anybody who, as we've gone through October, will say that changes are not here and that changes are not accelerating. We may not be accelerating and completely in the boat and going over the rapids now, but by November we are. The card for November, the tarot card for October is still the Hermit. So there is there is an observation of the change. There's a deep breath before the boat heads into the rapids. The tarot card for November is the Wheel of Fortune. The wheel turns. And the wheel will turn in a direction based on how ready we are and what we've been doing to prepare for it. And how much, and somewhere certain aspects of that wheel turn are very dependent on how we are able to be limber enough to stabilize Pisces as we take advantage of the opportunities that come in through November. Encoded into November are the trines to the North Node and Chiron as the personal planets transit Sagittarius. And Venus, as we look at the November 30th new moon in Sagittarius, is getting ready to trine Uranus and Taurus. Venus and Capricorn trining Uranus and Taurus. Now you might say, okay, Abhi, is November a Scorpio month or is it a Sagittarius month? It is a Scorpio month. The new moon in Scorpio, the Scorpio video is the one I did just before this. Why are you talking about the Sagittarius? Because Venus is in Sagittarius, and very soon in November, Mercury will enter very soon on November the 11th, on November the 2nd. This week, coming week, Mercury will also enter Sagittarius. Primacy and change is going to first be felt in the Scorpio part of the chart. Opportunity is going to be felt in the Sagittarius part of the chart simultaneously. By the time we get to Thanksgiving and Mercury is getting ready to, that's when the energy shifts into the Sagittarius part of the chart. But November is going to be about building on. First thing that November is going to be about, looking at the personal planets. November is going to be about building. Remember that very soon on November the 2nd or 3rd, November the 4th, Mars enters Leo. And when Mars enters Leo, he's going to get ready to trine the North Node as well. And Mars is going to trine the North Node from Leo 3 times. We have this kind of trine energy. Trines from Mars in Cancer, the personal planets in Scorpio, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. And then trines from Mars in Leo to the North Node, and the personal planets as they enter Sagittarius to the North Node. There are portals of opportunity. There is an opportunity to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. There is an opportunity to move in the direction we want to. But there's also the continued necessity to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart so that the direction we want to move in is not hampered. And you could even say, if we don't want to use the word hampered, that we are supporting, it's a little bit, we are supporting the growth. You know, when you're trying to grow something and you're a little bit like, I don't want that water channel to flood this, so I'm going to do what I need to protect it. It's all ideally trying to head to what you value and where you want to go. And it's going to be symbolized, I really think it's going to be symbolized by wanting to move towards the Aries part of the chart for now, where the eclipses are, and change what we need to in the Taurus part of the chart, and support Jupiter, create his ending and new beginning in the Gemini part of the chart. And we're going to feel automatically what needs to be done in the Pisces part of the chart, so that nothing spills over and floods these shoots that we are planting and where we're trying to go. And there's a back and forth through this process, with Mars going retrograde direct, Mercury going retrograde twice, Venus going retrograde once, all the way to the middle of April. You know, with the planets, it's one narrative. Our lives have many different, but it's not unusual for all the planets to kind of act in such a way that it creates this kind of tornado effect. All these energies contribute. So Venus, so in November, all of a sudden I'm going into the November monthly overview. In November, because we have the new moon in Scorpio on November the 1st, that is trine Saturn. And Mars opposing Pluto is encoded into it. We're going to have a separate video on that new moon. November is the time to act on what the question that Venus asked between September 23rd and October the 17th in the Scorpio part of the chart, which is everything okay? Is everything aligned with where you're trying to go? Is anything overinflated? Do you need to make a change? What changes do you need to make? Sometimes, let's say that you're in a particular situation and you're like, this is costing me too much. This is not the right thing. There are two ways to solve it. One, change the situation so it costs less, or do something to bring in the finances and the resources and manage the to be able to afford and support what you need to, depending on what is right for that situation. What is interesting is that with the trines from Scorpio to Saturn and Neptune, and with the squares from Sagittarius to Saturn and Neptune, you would think that the Sagittarius aspects are more challenging. I would argue that for some of us, it's going to be the Scorpio ones, because, sorry, that is my cat. He just used the litter box, if you are hearing that scraping. And it's a covered litter box. So every cat has their own thing. So he uses it and then he kind of wipes his paws against the walls. It's very cute. But, he has his own process. And after he leaves the litter box, he might inform me that he's used the litter box. So just be prepared for that. It may not happen. He's very sweet and very smart. He knows that I'm doing a video. He has used the litter box. I got it, Valentine. Thank you. I got it. It's very sweet. Sometimes it's an apology. I'm sorry I had to go to the bathroom while you were doing your video. But more often, it's very consistently I use the bathroom, I use the bathroom, I use the bathroom. I don't know why. Anyway, it's cute. The Scorpio transits, even though they're overwhelmingly trines to Saturn and Neptune and Mars, may bring, there's something about November that brings a greater sensitivity. With November being that Wheel of Fortune month, it has this place of what needs to pivot. What do you need to do? Do you need to bring in more income? Do you need to align what is going on in the Scorpio part of the chart so that it's really aligned with what you value? I know that there are trines to Scorpio and Neptune, but the trines also help and facilitate change to support. Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. And even though they're trines, you might think, oh, there's an ease to these Scorpio transits. I actually think that Venus going over Scorpio on September 23rd to October 17th has asked the question of what needs to change. And the changes may actually be needed to get the Scorpio part of the chart into alignment. And so even though they're trines to Saturn and Neptune, November, the Scorpio month, may be more disruptive. There may be a greater focus on change to stabilize things. By the time we become very aware of, by the time we start to head towards December, now Venus is squaring Saturn from Sagittarius on Monday. So this awareness of what needs to be brought into alignment and the opportunities that are coming in the Sagittarius part of the chart, and the awareness to say, watch out, if you don't stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, things will flood into, that is here now. But all that does is it starts to ask the question, what do we need to do to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart? And some of that may well be related to the Scorpio part of the chart. You might think, oh, the Sagittarius part of the chart is more stressful because of the squares to Saturn and Neptune. I actually think that it is, by the time we get to December, things are both challenging and exciting because the trines to the North Node and Chiron just have an expansiveness. By that time, we know where we're trying to head. It's November, even now, that we're going to feel like I need to start making some changes. We're not that far from November. If you're feeling that pressure, if you're feeling like I need to act, don't get fooled into, oh, with Scorpio, they're trines with Saturn and Neptune, and with Sagittarius, they're squares to Saturn and Neptune and Pisces. So I'll wait to act till, no. If Venus going over Scorpio has already made you think between September 23rd and October 17th, what changes need to be made to the Scorpio part of the chart, and you have the new moon on November the 1st coming on to make those changes, but Mercury already there, and the sun already there, and you know what needs to be done, and you're answering the question of, do I manage what is in the Scorpio part of the chart so that it is aligned with my values, or what are the changes that need to be made to bring things into alignment? I gave you that example of, am I earning more to manage this, or am I changing this so it is less expensive? Is one way of looking at it. But depending on what it is, it could be different things, especially if you're looking at relationships. And things are still in a the answer has not appeared in the Scorpio part of the chart. Things are still in a consideration and focus place. The action will start after November the 1st. But action needs to be taken to take advantage of those trines. The Sagittarius part of the chart starts to provide the opportunity and the excitement of where we want to move towards. But if you're going to say, I'm going to stabilize the Pisces part of the chart by the time I get to December, it's too late. You need to be aware now. Venus is making you aware now, by Monday. If you don't stabilize the Pisces part of the chart, what is growing in the Sagittarius part of the chart as part of these trines to North Node especially, and Chiron and Aries, can be threats. So what do you need to do to stabilize your life through the changes that are coming up? It may seem ironic. You may commit to something for the next few weeks or the next few months to help facilitate a change. You may not be in the same place for some of us, for the next 3 months where we are by the end of the first week of June. But what do you need to do in order to get to the end of the first week of June in a less chaotic way? And how do you start to bring different parts of your life into alignment? And for November, a lot of that is focused on the Scorpio part of the chart. But the reason why I'm doing this video now is there's still activity in November related to the Sagittarius part of the chart. Mercury will trine the North Node on November the 5th. Mercury will square Saturn on November the 12th. Mercury will oppose Jupiter for the first time on November the 18th. Mercury will trine Chiron on November the 19th. A lot of the action related to the Sagittarius part of the chart may occur in December, but the opportunities, the questions about what needs to be done to bring the Sagittarius part of the chart into alignment, the moving things into a mental space happen in November. They're both important. But to answer the question, where does there need to be greater focus, it would be on what changes need to be made in the Scorpio part of the chart that can help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. That said, I have given you an overview of what is going on from the Sagittarius part of the chart because it is relevant and important. We cannot ignore trines to the North Node as bringers and facilitators of opportunity. And the first of those was on October the 21st with Venus. Mercury, November the 5th. The Sun, November the 24th. And this coming week, when I do the weekly overview, and we have Venus squaring Saturn on Monday, and on November the 3rd, the same day that Mars opposes Pluto, we've also got Venus opposing Jupiter and Venus trining Chiron. The change is here. And I cannot, even though there's focus on the Scorpio part of the chart, we can't ignore the Sagittarius part of the chart. It's all working together. I'm going to leave it at that. So you can look at the Scorpio part of the chart with the last video I did, the Sagittarius part of the chart with this video, and start to get a sense of how are these trines and squares and what are they trying to tell you? What room do they have? How are they contributing to this cauldron of change? But don't ignore what you need to do to get to the end of the first week of June in a less chaotic manner. Don't be too resistant to the questions that Venus is starting to ask with regard to bringing the Scorpio part of the chart in alignment and what needs to be done as part of that process to help stabilize the Pisces part of the chart. That is the order of the day right now. We know, because we are under the shadow of the October 2nd eclipse, shadow is the wrong word, the influence in Libra, that something in the Libra part of the chart needs to be released. We were made aware of, and there could have been some sort of event that helped create that release between January 20th and February 20th. But the time to actually do the release is between October 2nd and the week before and after December the 2nd. That means change is afoot. And it may be that in October, we have that awareness, we have the anxiety, we know what needs to be done, and action is already starting to be taken, but the urgency for the action is going to be felt strongly now. So be in action, and by November, it is going to be action time. If you would like me to take a look at your birth chart and do a reading for you, my email address is in the description box below. Please email me there, and I will be happy to give you the information that you need related to readings. So email address in the description box below. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already, and if you find this content useful. Next video is on the weekly overview, then Mars opposition Pluto, then the Scorpio new moon. Next to the subscribe button, there's a bell icon. Hover over it, wiggly bell on top, click on it. You'll be notified when I do new videos. There's a thanks button underneath this video. You can use that to contribute to the channel. Comment on the video, like the video. If you feel so inclined, it gives it greater circulation on YouTube. More to follow tomorrow. For those of you who are like, why is he doing this from Scorpio? Some of you are going to benefit from the Scorpio, especially those who know your chart. I know for some people, this way of presenting data might be a little bit, but as I said, it's going to make it easier for me to give you the data knowing that these videos are out there over the next week and actually beyond. Thank you.